In this video, I'll be showing you how to set up a character to use with the ultimate seating controller. First, we'll start by setting up the scene. We'll go to Tools, Obsive, Ultimate Character Controller, and we'll go to the Main Manager. We'll go to the Setup tab, and we'll, underneath the scene, we will add the managers, we will add the character, the camera settings, and we will choose the main camera from the state configuration file underneath assets, fast skill team, ultimate seating controller, demo presets. We'll click setup camera. They'll give us all the necessary states. We'll add the UI. Now later, if you like, you can add tank UI and things like this to your monitors prefab. That'll allow you to have it all set up as fast as that. For now, we'll leave it as is, because I'll teach us how to set that up later. So we're done there. Now we're going to need a character. So we'll go into the demo and we'll find Nolan. He'll be under the models, characters folder in the Ultimate Character Controller demo. So you'll add Nolan to the scene. You go to character and set up your character as you normally would, except in here we're going to choose the board demo animated controller. We're going to set up the first person arms, so we've got one. Then we're going to choose the right arms. It's important to keep these in the right order for easy setup. And they're all going to use the standard first person demo controller for the arms. So we can go and just add that to all of these guys. It's just a pretty straightforward setup. Third person objects are going to go in here. Your arms, body, helmet. These are going to get made invisible on us. We're going to have to replace the materials. That's okay. Now we're going to go down and make sure we've got that state configuration still correct. We're going to choose the profile, and we can just use Nolan Offline Board or Nolan Basic, whichever you like. We'll now build the character. Use the standard ragdoll setup. Now you're going to notice here that the movement type couldn't be found. I'm unsure why this happens. This is part of the UCC project. But this is an easy solution anyway. We can just simply go and add this movement type manually. It's there. We have it. While we're at it, the movement types are important. So we're gonna, if we're using the first and third person controller, we'll have to add all relative movement types. So we'll be using the third person venture, third person combat, first person free look, and you can have idle if you like. Okay, so we'll start to look at the camera and make sure it's all correct. Now, as you can see, this error, this is the problem that's caused here, hence why the movement types weren't added correctly either. So as you can see that it's not going to let us select anything because there's no third person views. Well, let's stick with the first person for now because we're going to want free look. We're going to want transform look. Now for the third person, we're going to want combat, adventure, transition. It's nice to have that. Now, still can't select it. Okay, so you're going to need to refresh that editor just by deselecting and reselecting. Now you'll find that these can be set correctly. Like so. Now start in third person just for simplicity to show functionality. That should be pretty much all we're going to need to do there as a basis. Now we can go into the add-ons section of the character manager. We can go to the installed add-ons tab. We can go down to the bottom, we can find the seating controller there. If you haven't set up input, I suggest you do that already. If you're using standard the new Unity input system, I suggest you fix up your character, which we are going to have to do here too, because you'll find the Unity input component is no good, and we'll remove that, and we'll add the Unity input system component, which will then give us the player input component, and we should add our character input to that. You can disregard this if you're not using the new input system. Look sensitivity multiplier I like to put to 0.08 to slow things down a bit. It's very fast from standard. Now there's some states and things in this that should be set up too if you're using this system. You can go back, actually we'll go back for a moment and we'll just go to the existing character tab. Put Nolan in there. Everything should check out the same, but we will just update him really quickly, and that will just add our states nice and easily and quickly for us. Now that we should have solved all them problems now, so we can go to the add-ons tab, go to the installed add-ons, go to the bottom, find your seating controller section, go down to the abilities and animations portion of it. You can add your character into there. Add abilities and add animations should be true, and you can click set up character. Now your character should be set up to be able to use with any boardable object, object containing a board source component. If we go in now, we'll take a look at the ability. The ability will be added in the ability section, the ultimate character locomotion component. It's been added at the top. I like to move it down, but before we do this, as you see, this won't work. We need to deselect and reselect the character. Unity reorderable lists have been totally messed up. So we can now move the board down to just below move towards is a good spot for it. Now we'll take a look. The main thing we're going to be wanting to look at here is the offset. Nolan's going to require an offset of 0.6. This is a handy value or field to be able to modify for different characters that may have different offsets, or use their hips as root instead of the base, etc., etc. There is also your input. This is where you can change your input names. That's what the ability should be searching for to switch seats. Nolan is set up. One last thing. We want the arms to be visible, especially when we're driving a vehicle and the hands are on the steering wheel, for instance. So now you'll go and put the correct materials where they should be. One other thing that you'll find is that the bounding boxes here on each of these are using the root. They shouldn't be using the root. The helmet, for instance, should be using the head. This is not totally important, but for example, that should be done and then fixed up. Then you can edit the bounds. And it will always render correctly. And you won't have disappearing objects on you. Wondering why. The arms, their root is the hip, usually. For now, look, we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to be really cheeky and just go off that update when they're off screen. It's not very performant. Do not suggest doing this in a game. But this is just going to make it nice and easy to show you what this asset can do. Let's enlarge this floor a little bit, as we will be adding a vehicle to drive. There you go. Let's just go over all blue section here and make it a little bit nicer. Now, our character should walk and run and jump. The input. Did I forget to mention? The event system you need to replace with the standard, with the input system UI module. Now you should have no errors. There we go. We're running, we're moving. We have a standard character set up, ready to be able to board a vehicle, or a BoardSource, or a mounted machine gun, whatever you may build with the BoardSource component. Now, to set up a vehicle, I'll go and choose a model. To use the quad bike is nice to use for an example. It will cater for most situations. The Jeep and tank have vehicle weapons, and I'll show you how to set them up in another video. So we'll grab the quad prefab here. It's just with the materials and a box collider on it. Okay. Now, there's a couple of ways you can get setting up here. You can just whack the quad in here and set it up, and that'll give you a basis set up. For people that are used to going to the same place every time, you can go to the add-ons manager, to the installed add-ons section. Down to the seating controller section, you'll find the object setup area. You can drop your quad bike into there, and it'll essentially do the same thing as the other window I just showed. Click setup object. This is not intended for online play at the moment, so we'll just click no there. Close that. Now, that's it. We can now get on this thing. We can interact with it. We've got one seat that's been automatically set up. You'll find that it's added the move towards location automatically, because it didn't find one, and the driver's seat because it never had a game object for the seat position. You'll also find now on the automatically added seats, it'll assume that the vehicle could be enclosed and you can't see the character in it. Maybe the vehicle has no interior, for instance. So the visible player will be false. You want that for true if you're going to show the player. That's it. You'll get on here now and you'll find that we'll be using a very basic thing for the animation, and I'll show you that just quickly because we're not going to need the okay to display that. But that, you know, this is the only animation this character uses for everything we're going to do with this controller. Everything is IK based. So there you go. You're on a quad bike. You're in the seat. You can hop off. Okay, very good. Now, for the IK, we want the hands to be following the handlebars, don't we? So we're going to create an empty. I'm going to call it IK left hand. Add a component to it. Add the ability IK target component. It's the left hand. Okay, great. Move this into position now. And just rotate that. We're going to need to get it a bit better looking. Somewhere around there is going to be fairly close to what we're going to want. And we'll just rough this out for now. You can set it up how you look later and get it all perfect. Now, the right hand, we'll just duplicate that guy, rename, and set it to the right hand in the ability IK target component. We'll then move that to the other side. Simply invert the values on the X. There we go. Hands will now go there. For the handlebars, I've included a demo script to help steer it by player input. And you can actually just set this, but copy that, or don't put it there in the first place, up to you. Put it on the quad, and it makes it easier to set some things up later to save having two inspectors open to drag and drop components. So now we'll just paste that component and then this is going to be Y. The axis to rotate around is Y, as you can see. Okay. So now the handlebar is going to turn with input. These are childed to the handlebars, so they'll turn with it. Therefore, the hands will follow. We're going to want some positions for the feet, and you can just add them to the driver's seat in a very similar fashion. IK left foot, and add the IK component to that. Ability IK target, set the foot. Oh, it's going to look a bit funny. Position that where you're going to have your foot. Left foot. Roughly there will do fine. Duplicate that guy. Change it to the right foot. Rename it. That's about it, and then invert the X value to get it on the other side in the same position. Now we have IK. There's one other thing we're going to do here. We don't have to do it if all the IK targets are under this seat. If they're all child of this seat, we don't need to do anything more. But since we've got hands that are following handlebars, we've got one more step. We're going to take the handlebars and drop them in to the driver's seat's hand IK links root field. We want to be able to change perspective because I've got both controllers installed, first person and third person. That's about it. That now you can have IK working. As I'll show you now when you're up on. As you see, his hands are sort of going to position there. Now the seat position, yeah, the seat could be fixed up a bit there. And it's a good idea at runtime just to grab the driver's seat and oops, you can just get him roughly where you want him. That's better. That's looking a bit better. We'll adjust the feet after that. Let's copy that component and you can just paste the values after you've stopped play mode and readjust the feet here to be in a bit of a nicer position, and there you go. You now have the base set up, ready to go. All we need now is a vehicle controller to get this thing driving. But this asset is not a vehicle controller. This asset takes control of vehicle controllers. So what we'll display here is adding a passenger seat. The fastest way to do this is to just add your seat, game object, and name it correctly. Now we've got 2 feet already set up on that guy. Now this seat's probably going to be back here somewhere. He's going to sit at the back for an example, and we're going to spin the seat around. His feet are going to just dangle out. We're fine to just dangle out. We'll add the hands too. Why not? Let's just duplicate these guys. Move them up here where it can hold onto the guard. Yeah, you can hold onto the guard. That'll be fine. Change them guys to the hands. Left hand. Rename it. Always good to keep naming conventions. Saving confusion later. That's it. We're all done. You've now got a seat you can switch to. Save the scene. Go into play mode. Enter the vehicle. Press plus or minus. Switch your seat. Oh, one more thing. You better actually go to your board source and click update seats. This will add the passenger seat for you automatically. Saves you doing some manual setup. It'll add the name, seat game object, and set some default settings for you. We want to be able to change perspective because we have both controllers. We want to be able to aim in the back seat, and later on we're going to have weapons, so we want to be able to shoot from there, from the inventory. And this little area here is much like any other ability mask with the allowed items. You can specify which item definitions are allowed, and only them ones will be allowed, and you can use the squats mask also. Rightio. Now you can switch seats, as you see. we forgot to set hand, one of the IKs. Let's check that out. Should be a foot and a right foot, left hand and a right hand. Okay, there we go. Set up. Because of the slot mask, it's assuming you've got a weapon. And I'll demonstrate that. You can just go and change the allowed slots. And there you go, both hands are holding on. Okay, very good. Weapon setup, vehicle setup. I'm going to pause the video for a moment. Now, to get the vehicle moving using a vehicle controller, I'll demonstrate that with the demo car controller. So we're going to add the demo car user control, which will add the car controller component for us. Now, the wheels, we're going to need wheel colliders. So to position the wheel colliders really nice and easily, we simply create an empty on all of these guys, and we call them respective names. Oops. Wheel collider RL, and we'll rename all these. And that's given us our positions now for our wheel colliders. Just keep it nice and easy. Now we can just keep things neat. Create a empty here. Name it wheel colliders. Chuck all the wheel colliders there. Add the wheel collider component. While we're here, we'll add the wheel effects. So we're going to need that. Sure, grab that from the right place. Yep, that's the demo one. Okay, the skid trail, we'll add that now. Save us coming back to it. The skid trail particles, we'll just use burnout smoke particles, wherever they are. Doesn't matter, we'll just use any dodgy particle system for that anyway at the moment. So I'll just add one of them right away now. Create empty, called particles. And then we want to add the particles to it, which will be in effects particle system. There we go. Set the speed to 0. There we go, that's our dummy particles. Okay, We only go through that extra setup because this requires the wheel effects and the demo car user controller, the car controller. Now we'll add the colliders. One thing you'll notice, the wheel colliders aren't showing up yet, and that is due to the fact we haven't added a rigid body. We'll get to that. The wheel meshes. The wheel effects. They're on their wheel colliders. That point two. Just do the steer angle. Add some values. Doesn't really matter how accurate we are here. 3. We'll give that 400. Okay. So that's it. Now we're going to need a rigid body. Okay. Car is now drivable. Now what we want to do is these components here. If you noticed just earlier when I was in the passenger seat, I was still able to turn the handlebars, which we don't want that. So in the driver's seat is going to be where we add these components. So we're going to put the steering wheel in, car controller, and the demo car user control. Now we can disable these, so we don't need them from the start. If you forget to do that, the asset will handle that for you anyway, so don't stress about it. We should now have a vehicle we can drive. Taking its time. Come on, man. Alright. Oh, one other thing. The rigid body should have some weight to resemble real world values. The wheel colliders also should be made to the correct size, positioned correctly. The radius about 0.35, I imagine, yeah. The suspension distance only needs to be around 0.2, and all these colliders can just come up a bit to resemble the quad bike values a bit better. Now, save that out. Play. And away you go. We have our quad bike. Now this time, you'll notice that I can't turn the steering wheel anymore. The vehicle stops and goes depending on if it has a controller or not, a driver controlling it. Switch seats, and there you go. You have a vehicle set up, nice and basic.